Hello guys, I'm back from another review and today we're talking about what if Belle was, or at least has, the abilities to summon heroic spirits. And before we actually talk about what happened last episode, well, when it was, when it was like planning for well, for the live stream that is going to be sort of like near New Year's, I've been trying to find it, but thankfully I found it. So yeah, and also, if you guys, it's also going to be sort of like a, and also for the live stream, it's also similar to like a, sort of like a mix between like showing my drawings over the years, and also some stuff, mostly Q&A stuff. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, then then be ready for the live stream that's coming out soon, in 2 days. So be ready for the live stream. Okay, good. Anyway, continue on. So in the last video, we talked about how we currently see Bell basically there, as he was basically trading with the rest of the other heroic spirits. As after a while of trading, he would get a knock on the large gate that was around the Testia Familia household. But when he opened the gate, he would see Bet, as she would basically tell Belle if he's ready for the meeting between her and her parents. And so after basically preparing his clothes and also changing his look, he would basically start leaving with Bet, as some of his heroic spirits would decide to basically spy on him in case if something bad happens. So after arriving at a pretty nice restaurant, he would basically go in and would basically be seated with Bet, and right beside them was Bet's parents. And after a bit of talking and also a bit of funny talk, which made not Izuku, I meant Belle, a bit awkward at the time. And so after doing so, we basically see Belle basically leaving with Bet. But before he can actually leave, she basically gives him a gentle kiss instead of the usual aggressive kisses that she usually gives him. And so after doing so, we basically see him, a little bit dumbstruck, as Bet would just be leaving now. And after leaving, we currently see Belle just literally dumbstruck after feeling that, somewhat gentle kiss. Most of the time, the, kisses that he was given were, well, let's just say a little bit more aggressive. I mean, a little bit more aggressive, I meant. And, let's just say he's now, starting to think that he probably has Stockholm Syndrome at this point. But after, a while of thinking to himself, why the fuck am I feeling this? He would basically hear, the sound of familiar voices, more specifically his heroic spirits, or his servants. And so, after a bit of talking and also a bit of laughs, which, let's just say, Belle, he's not really laughing, he's more confused at this point. And so, after leaving the site, we currently see them now back at home, and everybody's basically just happy. As we, after a few days have passed, apparently Bet would also tell him that they're going to be planning to go to, to the dungeon, more specifically to basically try and capture the, the 20, I meant 20, I meant, the 50, 52nd floor, which is where they're going to be planning to go. And so after being told of this, Belle would basically prepare with the rest of his heroic spirits to basically go there. And so, after basically telling, Hestia goodbye, he would start leaving to go to where the meeting place is, which was in front of the dungeon. And after a while basically talking to some, Loki Familia members, and also basically staying a while with, Bet, they would start leaving to go into the dungeon. And so, that is where we basically left off, where Belle is basically now going into the dungeon with Bet and the rest of the other, Familia members, and also some other Familias. And so, let us talk about what happens next, ladies and gents. So, we currently see we currently see Belle and the rest of, the other Familias, basically they're, setting up camp. Because they're currently at, floor 40, as they're basically setting up camp. Belle and the rest of his, so-called, not really, so-called, but more quote-unquote, familiar members, as in, his heroic spirit, basically setting up their own camp. As while they were doing that, they're also helping out with, the food preparations, which, well, Emiya was adamant that he would do it by himself, which caused some of the other people to just think that that he's probably overworking and would basically ask him to basically rest up a little bit. Bell would also think so, but Bell would just think, yeah, probably not. He's a bit of a perfectionist. And so, after, a while basically cooking and Bell basically setting up the camp for them, which, thanks to the help of, um, while he's basically doing that, specifically Bell, Gilgamesh is basically setting up territory creation, or, using his territory creation to basically make a bounded field. To basically protect them from in case of, an ambush from some monsters. As while he was doing that, Europa is also there basically helping out with some of the other members. Mostly, people that were basically from random familias, including from, the Freya to the Loki familia. And as for, the others, like for example, like Hessian Lobo is basically just scouting out the area with the help of Melusine and also Burgeist. So, we currently see Bell just finishing up the, with the tent, as Bell would see this. Whew, I'm done, he would say, as he would start looking around and would see, some of his, remaining heroic spirits, more specifically, wait for a dang it, being Morgan, Koyanskaya, and Estrella? Yeah, I think. As, Estrella would say this. I mean, it was pretty tiring, but at least I got in some workout, she would say. As, Morgan would say this. You're telling me, she would say. As Koyanskaya would say this. Oi, the last time that you did anything is just give Belle just, some of the material, she would say. As she would say this. Yeah? So, it's much more easier than doing all of the grunt work, she would say. As, Koyanskaya would say this. Whatever, you whore, she would say. As after saying that, Morgan would say this. What did you say, you damn fox, she would say. As she would say this. Why you? As they look like they're about to murder each other. As Bo would basically step in and told them to basically stop. And so after saying that, both Morgan and also Koyanskaya would basically stop, as, Koyanskaya would say this. So, Bell. As Bell would say this. Yeah, Koyanskaya, he would say. As she would say this. Well, I certainly sense some monsters nearby, so I'm planning to basically capture them with their new types of monsters, she would say. As you would say this. Go do whatever you want, just as long as you stay near the camp, okay? As she would say this. Okie dokie, she would say. As she would start to, not really fly, but more like, basically jump away, I guess you could say. As after Bell, saw that, he would say, alright guys, as he would start, smelling the air, as he would smell something really good, as he would say this. I guess, MBS finished, making, dinner, he would say. As, well, Morgan would say this. About time, she would say. As Estrella would say this. Well, I am starting to become a little bit peckish, she would say. As after saying that, Belle would basically tell, the other heroic spirits, except for, for Koyanskaya, for obvious reasons, that they should probably go to where Emiya is. Currently with Emiya. Emiya is basically cooking up some gumbo. Yeah, that type of gumbo. As he's also making some fried prawns and also some other stuff on the side. As some of the people there were basically just amazing Emiya's cooking. As they're instantly starting to become hungry, including, Bet herself. As Bet is wanting to basically have a bite of some of those prawns. As we currently see Belle, Belle basically there, as you think to himself, yeah, they're probably gonna imagine god dang it. Food Wars, right? Just imagine after they ate that. Oh god, no. Yeah, you can probably know why. Anyway, continue on with this episode. As Belle would say this. Hey, Emiya, he would say. As Emiya would say this. Ah, hello there, he would say. As she would say this. Can I try some of the food now? As he would say this. Ah, it's already been done, so you have the first bite, he would say. As Belle would say this. Oh, thanks, Emiya, he would say. As everybody would start getting their food, or at least their fix of food. Wait for a second. So, after, getting, his fix of food, which, was of, some prawns on the side, and also some of the, some of the gumbo, as after sitting down with, some of his other heroic spirits, except for Koyanskaya, because she's currently, getting a lot of DNA, or not really DNA, but more like, getting a lot of monsters to basically copy for her NFF services. As, well, Belle's basically, eating some of the food there, you would see a lot of the other familiar spaces, or at least the other, nearby familiars that are basically trying out, Emiya's food, basically having that certain face from Food Wars. If you know what it is, then you probably know what it is. Oh God. If you remember from Food Wars and those infamous, eating scenes, then you probably know what it is. As Are you serious? It's literally raining again. Sometimes I think the Philippines is a bit, well, or at least the place that I live in is a bit, horrible. Mostly because when it's Christmas or, when it's New Year's or any of that time, it instead of beautiful white snow, I get rain, depressing rain. I mostly get depressing rain. So yeah. So anyway, continuing on, as Belle is basically seeing all of their faces, as we currently see Bet, basically coming up to him, as some of the other familiars would basically start whispering, saying, "Oh God, don't tell me that she's trying to, frick him again." One of them would say, as one of them would say this, taking best that he breaks his pelvis. Taking best that he's about to break his pelvis. I mean, she's about to break his pelvis at night. This night, everybody would just, whisper a little bit. As, Bet would basically come up to him, as Bet would say this. "Hey, Belle," she would say. As Belle would say this. Yeah, Bet," he would say. As Bet would say this. Belle, can you, come with me later? To my tent," she would say. As after hearing that, some of the people would start whispering a little bit louder. As, we currently see, a pretty much depressed, well, Kione basically saying to herself, "God dang it, God dang it." As we currently see, Leafia basically saying to herself, "I should probably get earplugs," she would say to herself. As the other elf girl, what is her freaking name again? Rivia, I meant. As Rivia is basically there saying to herself, "Yeah, thankfully I got me some earplugs." As well, they were basically saying that, we currently see the, perverted, the perverted ass, well, dwarf over there basically saying to himself, "That lucky boy." Actually, not really lucky. I mean, his pelvis is about to basically break off. Actually, it's gonna be shattered, turn into dust. As, we currently see Finn basically praying for his safety. Including some of the other boys saying, "Dorime, Tarino nata Dorime." Oh, I'm having a lot of fun with this one, to say the least. So, we currently see Belle basically, there, as after, saying that, I would say this. Sure, he would say. As she would say this. Thank you, she would say. And after saying that, she would basically start to leave. As several of the other people there would just say, "Good luck to him, his butt was about to basically break off." All of them would just say in unison. As Belle would basically hear that and would just think to himself, "I just hope," he would say to himself. As after saying that, we currently go now to, a few minutes later after, dinner. As everybody's basically going to their separate tents, as Belle would start leaving to go to, to where, wait for a second. To where Bet is. As after going, arriving at their tent, she would say this. Hey, Belle, you can come in now," she would say. As Belle would say this. Seriously," he would say, as he would basically open the tent and would basically say this. "Hey, Bet, why do you want to talk to me?" As before he can actually say anything, we currently see, a pretty, well, interesting sight, to say the least. We see Bet basically wearing something, well, cute to say the least. Just imagine something like this. Just imagine, um, just imagine her wearing like something like the Mashu, like how Mashu's basically wearing that faux costume. If you know what I mean, well, I can't search up the image because if I do, well, every time when I like search up an image, I have to go to like Google, right? But unfortunately, because of this new software, I can't. And if I do, the audio will sound horrible. So yeah, if you find this, certain artist by the name of, let me just check again. Actually, I couldn't find like the actual name of the artist, but there's this certain artist with this almost cute ass like chibi art style, and all of their comics about like FGO were about like or at least some of the ones that I found, or Mashu just like wearing like the faux costume and basically acting like primate murder. It's so freaking cute though. So yeah, just imagine, Bet basically wearing something like that. As she would say this. So what do you think she would say? As Belle would just be there thinking that it's absolutely adorable. As he would say, why are you wearing that? He would say, as she would say this. Well, you see, she would say, as we go to a little flashback. Well, Bet was basically leaving with her parents back, back when, when we, saw Belle basically leaving, basically being left, all alone. As she was basically walking with her parents, as her parents would basically bring him to, like, a little, like, shopping mall, or at least a medieval version of that. Actually, just imagine, like, actually, if you know what the, Mighty Magic Swords is, you're, one of the only few that I know that that like that show. I was one of those people that like, Mighty Magic Swords. It was one of my favorite shows growing up. Anyway, continuing on, and I probably feel a little bit old, like seriously. Anyway, continuing on, as we clearly see Bet basically going through this mall, as, Bet's mother would say this. Hey Bet, what do you think of this? She would say, as after, looking around, she saw what her mother was pointing at. And it was like the, faux looking, costume looking thing. As she would start to think, why the, like, what the fuck is my parents basically, showing that to me, she would say. As after saying that, her mother would say this. Would it be cute if your, little boyfriend found out that you're going to be wearing this, she would say. As, she would say this. Oh, no, you're not letting me wear that, she would say. As, her mother would say this. Oh, come on, besides, it would be cute for you to basically have a little fun, basically, wearing that, she would say. As she would say this. No thanks, I'm not wearing that, she would say. She would say this. Oh, how would you try and wear this as well, she would say. As she would show off another, costume, but, let's just say it's a little bit more skimpy to say the least. As we saw, as, Bet would see, something in this, in the store, and it would be, something that starts with Launch and ends with Ray. Oh god, and, and if you don't know this, type of like that is, actually, if you know the CE or, the craft essence, dangerous beast, then, just imagine, what Mashu's wearing in that, in that CE. Yeah, just search it up. I'm not going to be, showing it because I'm probably going to be banned from, anything. Actually, I'm actually surprised that I didn't get taken down just because of my, my 18 plus episodes, but still. Anyway, continuing on, as after seeing that, she would just be, super embarrassed, as, her mother would say this. Oh, come on, just wear something like this for your little boyfriend, she would say. It would also be a pretty good idea. And she would start whispering in her ear, she would say, maybe you can finally claim your mate, she would say. Make sure to try and mark him as so, she would say. As after saying that, she would start, getting a little bit, flustered even more, as she would start to think. Maybe I should, she would say. As she would start, thinking up in her mind that because Belle is going to be, sort of her mate, quote unquote, why not, show him who's going to be the, sort of like, sort of boss in this relationship. And I mean sort of as in a big, bold letters. And so, after, that, Ben would basically decide to purchase the, clothing. As after doing so, we currently see, we basically go back to, the present day, as Belle would just be there, a little bit surprised seeing her basically, wearing something of that sort. Wait for a second. Sorry about that. Anyway, continue on. As we currently see Belle, there in present day, as, he was still surprised seeing her basically wearing, something like that, as you would say this. Hey, Belle, why not, have a bit of fun, she would say. As Belle would say this. Sorry about that, wait for a second. Sorry about that, as she would say this. So, how about we have a little bit of fun, she would say. As her voice would start becoming a little bit lustful, as Belle would say this. Sorry, but, I'm feeling a little bit tired, so as she would basically, instead of like, well, instead of like, basically letting go, she would basically grab onto Belle's arm and was, and would basically drag him into the tent. As she would basically close the tent, little like, door, as she would basically pin him down to the ground. As her lust would basically intensify. As Belle would say this, please, I don't want to do anything like that. So, I don't want to, as she would say this. Oh, don't worry, she would say. I wouldn't do anything to you. But, today, I'll have a little bit, a little bit of more fun, she would say. As she would start licking her lips, as Belle would say this. Oh no, he would say to himself, I don't want my, my pelvis to basically be gone, he would say to himself. As, Belle would say this. I'll be gentle this time. After all, you are going to be my mate, she would say. As her lips would start, she would start licking her lips, as her eyes would become heart eyes. Her eyes would become a little bit pinkish, as the hearts would become, red, like, blood red. As we're going to be, making this, an 18 plus episode. So yeah, if all of you guys are, if some of you guys are not like, above 18, or at least, I don't really care because I'm 15, soon to be 16, sort of. I mean, it's still a long way until it's my birthday, but still. Anyway, so, as we currently see as Bet would say this. Alright now, let's surely have some fun, she would say. As she would slowly, take off some of her, clothing. As the, used to be, cute ass, looking like onesie. Actually, whoever says onesie anymore, or it's basically like that, it's basically like a bodysuit, but with a hoodie. Basically something of that sort. As, after taking it off, it would show off the dangerous beast, like, bikini style thing from the, from that CE, from, the Halloween event. I didn't really get the CE because at the time I didn't really get into the Grand Order at all at the time, so yeah. So, as after basically taking it off and, letting her body show, well, let's just say Belle, oh boy, let's just say Belle is starting to get a little bit tight, somewhere down below. So yeah, imagine something of that. Fine. Sorry about that. Anyway, continuing on with the episode, as after, saying that, Belle would just be a little bit uncomfortable, and, because it's an 18 plus scene, get out of here if you're not, if you're not old enough to basically deal with this shit. Anyway, continuing on, as she would basically, start, leaning over Belle, as she would say this. Don't worry, I'll be gentle, she would say. As she would basically start licking a little bit of his face, as she would basically, tell Belle to basically open his mouth. After complying, because, he's, sort of now became submissive towards her now. You can probably know why. I'm starting to feel like, I'm literally, like, showing off some of my preferences. Oh, god dang it. So, as after doing so, she would basically force, Belle's mouth open and would start, kissing him deeply. After a while, basically, exploring his, exploring a bit of his, his mouth, and after a while, basically doing so, Belle would basically just stop and would basically, just breathe a little bit hard, as he would say this. Can you? As she would say this. Oh, don't worry, she would say. As she would start, extending a bit of her claws, which, I don't remember in the anime if she really did, or he really did have claws. But I think, maybe. If not, then just tell me in the comments. As she would start, slicing his, not chest, but more like his shirt open, showing off some of his, abs. As she would start, started like, going towards his neck, as she would start, suckling it. As Belle would start feeling the effects of her, her suckling, as it would cause a hickey on his, neck. As she would say this. Now, you're marked. Now no other bitches can, get you, she would say. After saying that, he would say this. Hey, Bet, he would say, as she would say this. Oh, and by the way, you can just call me Honey. When we're basically together, she would say. As Belle would say this. Sure, Honey, he would say. As after saying that, she would say this. Now, time for the main course, she would say. As she would basically, pull down Belle's pants, and then he would show off his, 15-inch dong. Yes. As after, releasing it, she would say, oh, it's starting to become a little bit bigger, she would say. As she would basically, put her, she would basically sit on, Belle's face, as she would start, reaching towards Belle's little, little Belle over there. After doing so, she would start, a little bit like sniffing. As after sniffing it, she would say, oh, I'm certainly gonna have a little bit of fun, she would say. As she would start, putting her, lips up against Belle's, little thing, let's just say that. As after doing so, she would start, putting out her tongue and would start licking it like a popsicle. Popsicle. And after doing so, Belle would start feeling, immense pleasure from that. And after doing so, Belle would basically stop. She would stop, as she would say this. Now, how about another, she would say. And she would start, swirling her, basically swirling a bit of her, saliva all over it, as she would say this. Now, time for the next thing, she would say. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Anyway, continuing on with the episode. Anyway, continuing on. As, Belle would start feeling a bit of, pleasure basically pulsing all over, himself. After a while, basically, sorry about. As she would basically, start licking all over, as Belle would start, feeling immense pleasure from that. As after a while of doing so, she would say this. Now, time for a little bit more, she would say. As she would basically, grab onto Belle's, ding-a-ling over there. As she would start, using her, her entire mouth. As she would start moving up and down, up and down, up and down. As Belle would start feeling, pulses of pleasure basically coming off of him. Nearby, currently some of his, some of his heroic spirits would say, yeah, we're not dealing with this shit. All of them would say, as we currently see Koyanskaya basically coming back from her, little trip, as she's basically, fully absorbed some of the, well, not really absorbed, because, well, she's not in her, Koyanskaya of darkness form, which, by the way, is going to be one of the servants that I meant Izuku will have in, in my Kill la Kill What If, which, if you don't know, the Kill la Kill What If, which is, which is supposed to be, the what if Deku has the ability to summon heroic spirits, or what if Deku was an FGO, which is the original idea for it. But at the time, I was too lazy, so I decided to go for just the regular old MHA universe. Sort of, but with a twist, as in, mixing it with a bit of, of, Magecraft and shit. So, yeah. So, anyway, continuing on, as, currently Koyanskaya would say to herself, yeah, I should probably let them be, she would say, as after saying that, she would basically go to her own, tent. So, as Belle is basically, feeling much, so much pleasure from her, as she would say this. Now, I want you to say this. Now, say, I want to, you know, C-U-M. I'm not gonna say it. As Belle would say this. Yes, I want to. As she would say this. Alright then. Release. As after saying that, Belle would basically, well, you know. As after doing so, she would start, trying to contain all of the, bursts out. Yeah. As after a while, she would basically fully swallow everything. As after doing so, she would basically open her mouth, showing off, almost all of the, all of the white stuff that she basically almost swallowed. As after swallowing it, it would just be all gone, as she would say this. It's tasted good, she would say. Time for the truly more. As she would basically start taking off her, moving away her, her underwear a little bit, as she would say this. Now, time for me to have a little bit more fun, she would say. As she would start, putting her, her, her donut over there towards his little dog over there. As after doing so, she would start, basically positioning herself, as she would say this. Now, are you ready, Belle? She would say, as Belle would say this. Yes, she would say, as she would say this. Now, I want you to say it. Please, make me your damn mate, she would say, as he would say this. Please, make me your mate, he would say. I'll do anything, he would say, as she would say this. Good choice, she would say, as she would basically slam her hips into Belle's, little Belle over there. As after doing so, she would start screaming out in pleasure. Currently nearby, some of the other Loki family members would start saying to themselves, "Oh, come on, shut up," all of them would say, as currently, we currently see, a sleeping, a sleeping Revia, and also a sleeping, Leafia, as they're currently wearing, earbuds, while the others are basically trying to cover their ears. As for, a certain, Amazoness, well, she's currently crying in the corner saying, "Come on, why not me?" she would say. As we currently see, a pretty much, not really annoyed, but more like, indifferent, eyes, as she would say, I really want to battle him, she would say. As after saying that, we currently go back to Belle, as Belle is basically, being ridden on by, by Bet, as Bet is basically doing a reverse cowgirl. Oh god. As after a while, Belle would basically, sit up, and he would basically, start grabbing, onto, Bet's, minus 8. Actually, no. It was like, at least a B. As after grabbing them, she would basically squeak a little, as she'd say, "What are you doing?" she would say, as you say this. "Come on, why not let me have a bit of fun?" he would say, as he would start pinching a bit of her nipples, as, she would basically scream out saying, "Stop," she would say, as he would say this. "Oh, come on." He would say, as he would start looking towards her, her little, donut over there, as you would see her, let's just say jelly bean. I don't even know. Sorry about that. Anyway, continuing on with the episode, as, she is basically, doing that, Belle would basically grab onto her, I guess you could say jelly bean. These innuendos at this point, I don't even know at this point, as he would start, rubbing it a little bit, as it would cause, Bet to basically, moan in pleasure, as she would say, Belle, stop, she would say, as you'd say this. "Oh, come on. You did make me have a little bit of pain, so why not, give you, a little bit of medicine for that," he would say. As after saying that, he would start, licking a bit of her neck, as it would cause her to, moan out in pleasure as well. As Belle would start, slowly start going towards her ear, as he would start biting it, as it would cause, Bet to basically moan out in pleasure. Currently also nearby, some of the other familiar members, after hearing that, some of them would say, "Are they really doing it?" Some of them would say, as one of them would say this, "Ha! told you, he would say, now give me up my money, he would say, as one of them would say this. Hey, first of all, he needs to get this, pelvis broken first. Oh, like one of them would say, as he would say this. Oh, come on. As one of them would say this. Hey guys, I think both of them are actually having a little bit of fun, said one of them. As one of them would say this. Wait, really? As one of them would say this. Either, that Bell kid, is either a masochist or, is basically having Stockholm Syndrome, said one of them. As one of them would say this. I'm taking bets with the, Stockholm Syndrome part. As after saying that, we go back to Belle, as Belle is currently, pretty much in, heaven at this point, as Beth is basically, riding him at this point as well. As after a while, Beth would say this. Belle, I think I'm about to. As Belle would say this. Yeah, me too, he would say. As, he would start slamming him even more, basically with his, pelvis basically slamming into her, little part over there. As, after a while, Beth would say this. I think I'm about to. As Belle would say this. Yeah, me too. As, after a while, he would slam, his little, hot dog into, Beth's, bun. As after doing so, he would, explode. After doing so, Beth would basically, moan out in pleasure, as Belle would basically, slump down. As Beth would basically get off of Belle's little hot dog, as Belle would still be, fully awakened, I guess you could say. As, as currently Beth is basically, sticking out her, butt at the, sticking out her butt, as her, her bun over there is currently, her hot dog is currently filled up with jelly. As Beth is basically having that, fuck silly face as she's basically laughing and giggling. As Belle would say this. I think it's my turn, he would say. As he would slowly put his, little, ding-a-ling over towards her, her Uranus, I guess you could say. As she would scream, wait, what are you doing, she would say, as Belle would say this. Like I said, it's my turn, he would say, as he would basically slam his, ding-a-ling towards her, bumhole. As she would basically, be wide-eyed, as she would basically start, as a bit of, drool would basically come out of her mouth. As she would say, as she would basically, have her, eyes basically, actually, melting pleasure. That's basically what she's, what her face is looking like right now. Wait for a second. As after, doing so, she would basically have that fuck silly face, or, face of, absolutely, melting pleasure, as Belle would basically slam his hips once again, basically harder, as it would cause, Beth to basically, just imagine her tail basically sticking up like, one of those, dogs that basically have, is starting to become a little bit threatened. As Beth would basically scream out once again, as Belle would basically start slamming his hips into her bumhole several times, as her face is currently, just imagine that. As after a while, she would basically scream out, stop, she would say, as he would say this. Oh, really, he would say. How about this then? As he would basically do one final thrust, as he would explode, causing Beth to basically arc her back a lot. As she would basically, lean onto Belle's chest, as her face would just be absolute pleasure, as Belle would say this. Now, he would say, as he would basically grab her, grab her face by the chin, as he would start kissing her. As the kiss was basically, super sexual to say the least. And after doing so, we currently see Beth basically, fall to the ground, including Belle. And so, both of them would just be knocked out after, the long session that they had. And so, we're going to be leaving this episode right off here. So, yeah. So, I hope you liked the video. Comment and subscribe. And I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye.